That's like my biggest regret. You have to hyper plan social interactions in order to actually see people. It's simultaneously really scary, but also can be a positive. Wow, everything's really in my control now, but I do sort of wish someone had given me a little heads up. So that's this video. If you were rich and living in the house of your dreams and had your dream partner and your dream friendships and your dream lifestyle, what the fuck would you do for the rest of your life? My hair today makes me feel like Farrah Fawcett, and I kind of love that for me. Welcome or welcome back. I have a matcha with oat milk, which means we're getting chatty. Today we're talking all about the post-grad existential crisis, basically what life is really like after college, how it might be different from what you expect, and sort of just the brutal truth of what it's really like after you graduate from university, college, your last 4 years in the traditional education system. I guess it depends how you look at it. Maybe high school is really those last 4 years, but you know what I mean. My hope is that by hearing these things, either before you graduate college or when you're fresh out of college, you get some sense of like validation that when you do go through these things, it's super normal and it's nothing to freak out about or feel like your life is over from. Like, yes, there are these struggles, but with each phase of your life, there's different struggles. So I don't want to like turn it into this catastrophic negative thing, because I truly feel like there is positives and negatives in every single phase of life. But I do think that knowing these things, or at least knowing that these things are valid and normal parts of the post-grad experience, is so therapeutic and comforting, because it keeps you from feeling like it's the end of the world. I have my notes here, so if you see me looking to the side, that is why. Let's get into it. So what is life really like after college? What are some of the main struggles that you're going to face post-grad? For starters, something that a lot of people experience is this feeling that there's too much choice. When you think about it, we go through the education system with so much guidance. There's always been a very strict, very clear layout of what you're doing, what you're supposed to do, how to get the results that you want. If you get good grades, everything will work out for you. You'll get into a good college. If you do good in college, you'll get into a good job. This is the formula that we've all been taught, right? But as soon as you leave school, that lack of structure and that lack of authority can sort of give you overwhelm. It's simultaneously really scary, but also can be a positive, because yes, it's overwhelming and it puts a lot of weight on your individual shoulders, but that gives you more potential to create like the exact life you want. More choice means more opportunity for good things, but it also means just a lot of pressure. So there is this sense of, wow, everything's really in my control now. And this sort of leads to this feeling of like, okay, if I'm unhappy, that unhappiness falls only on my shoulders. There's this huge sense of personal responsibility for how your life is going that can really like get to you and start to hurt your sense of self-esteem if things aren't going well. Before, when you're in school, there was always people you could blame. But once you're out of school, like the choice is yours, and that sort of makes you feel like, okay, if things aren't going well or if I'm not happy with my life, it's really my fault. Another like very prominent feeling that people experience in this phase is just like feeling really stranded and insecure. Basically, you feel like you're back at square one, and this is sort of an experience with every new life stage, right? Like, you probably remember your freshman year of high school feeling like a total fish out of water, and then by your senior year feeling like you own the place, and the same thing happens in college. Freshman year, you're scared, you're intimidated. Senior year, you feel comfortable. It's sort of the same experience again in post-grad life, where you feel like you're back in that small fish, big pond type of scenario. At least for me, that's not really something that I was expecting to feel. I was expecting to hold on to that sense of readiness and I guess self-assuredness that I had by the end of college, but definitely trying to enter the whole post-grad world can really set you back in that sense and make you feel once again like you are the amateur, like you need to figure everything out, like you have been reset and everything up to this point is sort of out the window, and once again you're just the beginner. And again, I want to stress that while these things are a little difficult to handle emotionally, they're not necessarily bad, but it is something that I feel like I was not prepared for at all. And that's sort of the general feeling about all of these things, is I wasn't prepared, and I don't think I could have been prepared. I think it's the type of thing that you just sort of have to like dive into and live through. But I just sort of wish someone had given me a little heads up. So that's this video. It's so crazy because I feel like this is always true, again, with every new stage of life, but like looking back now at the things that would stress me out in college, I'm just like, oh my God, why were you stressed? Like at the end of the day, like everything was taken care of for you. You didn't have any money responsibilities. Like if you got a bad grade, it wasn't a big deal. It probably wasn't even really gonna affect you. So like now looking back, oh my God, sorry, I have like little specks floating in my vision right now. Anyway, now looking back at college, I'm just like, oh my God, you literally had no reason to stress. And it's so crazy how like retrospectively we can look back at different periods of our life and be like, what were you stressing about? But in the moment, everything feels so big and scary and important, you know? Another thing that like people tried to warn me about when I was in school, but I just like didn't want to fucking hear it, is that it takes a lot longer to find a job than you're going to expect. Especially, I feel like in modern times, the job market is fucking weird in a way that it wasn't like for our parents' generation, and it's just a lot harder to get your foot in the door. Like you need experience to get in the door, but also how are you going to get experience if no one will let you in the door? So it's kind of like a no one wins situation. You're gonna sort of have to fight tooth and nail to get your first position. And for me, this was like sort of a confidence hit, because as someone who always like did really well in school and didn't really struggle with it, being thrown into applying for jobs and not having that same sense of ease really had a toll on my confidence. So just be prepared for the fact that the job process is grueling and difficult and is gonna take a long time, but it's nothing personal that's wrong with you. It's literally just like how the system is. Okay, another huge thing that changes when you leave school is the way that your friendships change. Something I actually really miss about college was just like the ease of hanging out with your friends. Like having all your friends living so close to you, being able to hit people up at all times of the day and be like, hey, do you want to like study together? Do you want to go to the fucking dining hall? Like that whole culture, that whole lifestyle of like spontaneously making plans and being able to meet up in 2 minutes outside of your dorm building. Like that's something that I think is really underrated and I did not appreciate enough when I had it. I feel like I've had a really sort of unusual experience in the fact that a lot of the friends that I have or that I've made don't have traditional work schedules. So there is sometimes still that sense of flexibility for when we hang out. But for the majority of people, if all your friends are working like traditional 9 to 5s, you're gonna lose a lot of that sense of spontaneous plans. And this is something I've heard from a lot of people, that it's a lot harder to maintain friendships as an adult. It takes a much more intentional, conscious effort to make time for maintaining your friendships. And something that I've been working on personally is trying to maintain that sense of spontaneity. Sure, maybe it's only something that you could do on the weekends if all your friends are working Monday to Friday, but like texting someone up and trying to make plans that same day, being like, are you in the mood to go to a coffee shop right now? I'm trying to like maintain that sense of spontaneous, casual interaction, because otherwise it feels like you have to hyper plan social interactions in order to actually see people, which is like not as fun, you know? Okay, so now that we've talked about sort of some of the things that change and some of the struggles that you might have when you leave college, let's dive into the advice portion of this video. I'm gonna break this down into advice for if you're still in school or still in college, and then advice if you're freshly out of college or you're navigating this whole post-grad situation right now. So my advice for if you're still in college, relish in the fact that unless you fail out, you're sort of in a zone where the consequences of your actions are not too severe. Yes, you might get one bad grade, but in the grand scheme of things, I swear to God, individual grades don't matter. As long as you're overall doing okay, you're fine. Like no one really cares. Obviously that sort of depends on the field, but in general, like nothing is that big of a deal. For the most part, the consequences are really not too severe. So really relish in this time where your responsibilities are kind of limited, but your freedom is kind of high. It's sort of a very rare and cool sweet spot. So just really enjoy the fact that you're sort of enjoying adult freedoms without all the adult responsibilities. You know, if your schedule is a little more flexible and spread out, like enjoy that, make the most of the time. While I think it's important to really enjoy this phase, I also think it's important to take advantage of it from a strategic standpoint and set yourself up for the future as much as you can. And I don't mean just in a vague way of like building your skills or getting better at your craft or improving your writing or anything like that. I mean like very concrete, like helping future you make money, helping future you thrive. So this could mean like setting up income streams, starting side hustles, starting something like YouTube. I can't even tell you how much I wish that I had started this back in college. Yes, I was scared. Yes, I was embarrassed, but I had years that I could have been building this up to the point where it was making me money when I graduated college, you know? So I sort of wish that I had started building income streams to make the post-college transition easier and to sort of alleviate some of the pressure and desperation to take whatever job just for the money, right? Like I wish that I had just set myself up to have income streams, to have money coming in. That's like my biggest regret. And also just like applying for jobs your senior year of college. I was so adamant about not doing this. I was just like, oh, I want to focus on my classes. Like after I graduate, I'll dedicate the summer to applying for jobs. But I just really, really wish that I had taken time spring semester to start applying, because it would have made it so much smoother, faster, easier to transition when I did graduate. Okay, now my advice for you fresh fish out of college, you goldfish in the big fish bowl. If you've left like the college or school bubble, even if it was like high school, whatever, biggest thing I can say to you is that if you're lost or you feel like you don't know anything, you feel like you've wasted your entire life up to this point, you have no real skills, you have no real experience, like if you're experiencing any of that, basically imposter syndrome or just like insecurity about yourself, it is so normal. And also I really encourage you not to sell yourself short, because whether you think so or not, you have been accumulating skills and knowledge for so long, and you are valuable and capable regardless of how companies or people older than you try to make you feel like you don't know anything. You do, and just know that if you're experiencing imposter syndrome, it's nearly universal. It's a very normal experience and it's nothing to get super tripped up over. And I think the kindest thing that you can do for yourself is just to free yourself from the pressure of figuring it out right away. We have this idea that as soon as we graduate, we need to have everything together. We look at people who land the perfect job and move to the pretty city and get the nice apartment, and we're like, that needs to be what my 20s looks like. But it's not. And it's a lot rockier and more tumultuous and more confusing for 99% of people. And if you free yourself from that pressure to have it all figured out, you'll be able to enjoy the process and the years of your early 20s so much more, you know? I feel like so many of us are so stressed out about figuring out our whole future and getting the financial security and stability that we forget to like take a second and enjoy this period. We're so future focused, so result focused. And this is me speaking to myself too, because I struggle with this literally every day. Everything that I've talked about in this video have been things that I've been wrestling with ever since I graduated like a year ago. Another thing that I really encourage you to do that's also just like really kind to yourself is to remember that life has so many different pieces to the pie. Stick with me, kind of a weird analogy, but like if you're struggling in one area, like your career or your living situation or money, I encourage you to remember the other areas of your life that maybe you're doing a really good job, and that those are equally important to how you're doing in life. So like for example, maybe you're struggling a lot with your career, but you've done a really good job at learning to care and cook for yourself and how to clean your apartment. Or maybe you're not making a ton of money, but you moved to a new place and you're learning how to be independent for the first time. Maybe your friendships are really thriving. Maybe you have a really healthy romantic relationship. All of these things are still really important pieces of your life that often get overshadowed by the stress of figuring out work, figuring out money, all these different things. And the same goes the other way around. Like if you feel like your friendships are really struggling since leaving college, but maybe you did land a really good job, like celebrate that, focus on that, and the other pieces will start to come together over time. There's always something that's going well, you know? Or if there's not, that's okay too, and you'll get there. And of course, constantly remind yourself that you're young and you have literally decades to figure this out. If you had everything sorted right now, if you were rich and living in the house of your dreams and had your dream partner and your dream friendships and your dream lifestyle, what the fuck would you do for the rest of your life? Life is about the process and getting there and slowly but surely building up your dream life one block at a time. And I always have to remind myself, like, I'm literally 1 year out of college. I have so many years. In my 20s alone, I have like 8 more years to work on this. The amount of progress and change that can come in just that time, in that 1 decade, is crazy. And then there's more and more time to keep working. So as long as you have a mindset that's focused on growth and you're determined and you have the motivation to like keep working on yourself, you have so much time to do it. Of course, there's a fucking plane. Okay, I think that's it for this video. I hope you guys liked it. I have an entire video about the pressure to be successful in your 20s that I think matches up with the themes I talked about in this video very well. So definitely go watch that if you haven't seen it. I also have an entire self-development playlist that you can check out. I will see you in the next one. Bye.